My name is Chad Joshua, and today I wanted to talk about focusing on the things that we can control and accepting the things that we can't control, and how weaving that focus into our life can give us a huge benefit, especially on those days when things aren't working out as easily as we would like them to. So if you're anything like me and you're trying to live your absolute best life, you're driving into it, you have your nose to the grind, then I'm sure that there'll be a few takeaways in today's discussion that you could apply and lend to your best interest. So let's get right into it. When I look at this at the onset, it seems to me that this issue is about approach. It's about how we approach our obstacles and challenges and the mindset in that we do that. You know, there's certain ways of doing things that if you start to put them into practice, it really does begin to change your perception. And when put into practice, you're changing your behavior, you're changing your response. And by doing that in a repetitious way over time, you're then looking at the result of these choices and changes. That ultimately lends to your perspective changing on circumstances at large. I think it's real easy for people to waste a lot of energy on things that they have no influence over. Like, for instance, other people's opinions, external events, and past decisions. We torment ourselves with ill-advised efforts to change things we have no control over. It's refocusing on our thoughts and our actions and our reactions, these things that we do have control over, that actually lends to us, that provide us the change in throughout those uncontrollable circumstances that we desire. But it is not easy. For those of you watching that say otherwise, well, I am doing my best to be as good as you, because this is one area that I struggle with. But I don't know. Is it just me? Or do you also find a challenge in biting your tongue at every precise moment you probably should be? Let me know, because I don't want to feel like I'm the only one on the island. To be fair though, I have been getting better at this, but these are gains that have not come easily. They have come with outcomes that have been more desirable than me just releasing a rant that falls on deaf ears. So I can attest for the benefit of biding your time, biting your tongue, turning your attention away from those outside forces that would otherwise seem provocational. I like to put into use practices that provide for the most effective efforts. Today we're talking about one of those practices, and that is the idea of controlling what you can and letting go of the things that you can't. So how about you? What experiences have you had with outside forces you have no control over, that have just made you crazy, and that against your better judgment you railed against? And then on the other side of that, what experience have you had where you've known better, you've conducted yourself in a more advantageous way, and you've lent to yourself moving away from an unnecessary conflict that was mostly internal and that didn't provide you any momentum anyway? You see, I write songs, and coming back here to live permanently, I knew that I would be able to keep myself fed and under roof and still have time to settle that artistic desire to write. But you know, as it goes, life loves throwing the occasional haymaker, and I am certainly not immune, taking my fair share of them. What's the takeaway in taking the knocks? If you look across your life and you see the ups and downs, you see the things that you're working hard to bring into reality, what are the common threads? You know, I'm sure relationships and personal dynamics, opportunities, lack of opportunities. There are so many obstacles that it makes driving towards anything extracurricular tiresome. But my feeling to my core, it's that driving towards the things that are extra, where you have the real chance to define yourself and who you are to yourself. You know, we all have to meet the day. Meeting the day is a lot different than meeting yourself, where you really should be, who you really should be, what you should really have strived for. It's not a game, it's serious, but it's a game. It's like a challenge. Previous video I mentioned, when I came here, I didn't have anything. It took me the better part of 8 years living here before I really even turned my attention to songwriting. And then immediately after I had it, we went into a worldwide lockdown, which, while I'm completely against, it did provide me an excuse to just sit in the house and really focus in on that. And now years passed since then, and I've only just really gotten into stepping onto social platforms and to communicating with others in a way that I'd never had before, in an effort to bring attention to myself and the project that I hold near and dear. There is so much that goes into building something from nothing. And if you have done that, then I admire you, because I am at the infancy of it, and there is so much that is not inside of my control. And all of my tendencies are to manhandle a circumstance and sculpt it into an outcome that I find suitable. But as I mature and as the wisdom starts to set in, I think better of it. It's not because I'm particularly bright, but it's more so that I'm not completely stupid. And my attempts to manhandle the circumstance back into something that I find satisfactory only yields absolute discomfort and dread. I can't even comprehend the amount of things that I don't know about how to network and integrate myself on social platforms for the sake of promotion, much less to apply them and to do it on a time schedule and a far faster rate than I'm able to maintain. You know, and for me, this issue's been consuming for the better part of the entire year. And all of my efforts to make adjustments have only taken me out of my focus, out of my happiness, and out of my enjoyment in doing the thing that I want to do. You know, I want to sit here and I want to write 100 songs. I have no expectation of outcome, but I want to put my best foot forward in my presentation, because every time you write a song, in your heart, you're writing it for people. And satisfy that part of the art, you need to have some people who care enough about what you're doing to listen. And they do need to be the people that those messages and those songs resonate with. And I get all that. But it's navigating from being in a place where I'm here, they're out there somewhere, they don't know I'm here, and I don't know how to show them I'm here. After expiring every effort for me to move the circumstance, for me to push things, I finally realized I can't. I'm spent on thing emotionally. I'm next to cursing myself, next to cursing my songs, next to cursing the joy that I get out of sitting there and creating something out of nothing, which is what I've waited to do my entire life. So here in the moment when I finally have all of the pieces together and can sit down to the task of actually making these songs just to satisfy that part of myself, always wanted to do that. It's tarnished completely by the things that I can't control. And that is only because I'm allowing it to be that. It's putting a weight and burden onto something it doesn't need. So in the recent months, I've come to the realization that I must reframe my thinking, because it isn't doing me any good. It isn't doing my project any good. It isn't doing the people that I care about any good. So I redefined it to myself. I thought all this promotion isn't me making any song, and I just want to make the songs. So I ultimately decided that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and me figuring it all out, I would just subscribe to some program to get the help in the area, and then just resign myself to whatever the outcome of that is. So then I can just sit back into what I want to do and the thing that's important to me to do well. And then in addition to that, I wanted to start to reframe my own thinking, rebrand myself to myself. So I've been spending so much time reading and considering strategies for good fortune and taking advantage and making the most of your opportunities. That I thought by talking to camera in the way that I have in these last few weeks would be a way to hold myself to a standard, to see myself and my weaknesses and the things that I fall short, and then to attest to that publicly, and then to frame the standard in front of a group of new friends who may be struggling with the same types of obstacles in your own related pursuits. For me, these two specific changes has resulted in me being able to focus back in on working through the 100 songs, at which the point where focusing back in becomes refreshed and renewed in the satisfaction that here yet again, I've reestablished a new starting point where I have again reached the point where I actually get to sit down and do the thing that I waited when I was sat down at the piano when I was a child. You know, the funny thing for me, a little bit of an aside, like, you might think that he had music lessons when he was a kid. That's why he's where he is. But as soon as I was a kid and I was sat down at the piano, I was escaping the structure of the piano lessons, and that escape of the structure of the piano lesson was me indulging my own songwriting. My efforts were certainly not prodigious, but they did shape my entire life. I owe it to that kid there to see it through, because I went this far with it. I mean, call me crazy, which I've looked in the mirror and done, but every step in my entire life has been to answer what that kid knew. So I don't want to waste my time being overwhelmed and incapacitated with the exterior nonsense of it. I want to exist in myself, in my truest self, and that's to be doing and pursuing what I want to do. And if that means that I have to find some clever ways to manage the extra pieces of it, then that's what I'm going to do, because I'm not going to waste my time trying to recreate the will or trying to force my expectation onto reality. Instead, I'm going to, in this case, find a little help, and I can digress and just lean into the thing that I'm doing. And I think in that way, this analogy applies. So I'm sure you have your own stories that have gotten you to where you're at, what you're doing. And I sit here talking at this camera wonder what these people are into. So don't spend a lot of time failing to tell me about it in the comments there. I'm super interested. It's a sort of reciprocation, because I'm putting myself out there with a small idea. Maybe in some way, there's something about the way that I've made mistakes and decided to share them that can be of any small use to someone else. At the same time, I'm not an absolutely generous person, and I could use a little bit of insight myself. And rather than just find another random video, I'd like to continue the discussion in the comments below. So tell me about something I need to hear. And you can believe I'll ponder on that the next couple of days. And if there's some good takeaways in there, I'll be applying them. And I'll do my best coming on here and presenting the opportunity to make something of our time as a positive and exciting gift, in a hope that it better inspires me and better inspires you. So it's like weeding out a garden. You're leaving space for all the constructive thinking and the positive disposition to grow. While that may all sound a little bit hippy-dippy, you need every advantage you can get. So keep your head up, and I'll keep mine up, and you hold me to account, and I'll hold you to account. And we'll talk again soon.